line that seems to be loaded, and here we are under Eric Mateos and what they're doing.
Texas should be absolutely embarrassed of their offensive line in comparison to Baylor's. Now that you just mentioned that, they really should be. I mean, they've been building up their offensive line and getting way bigger, better blue chip prospects on paper the last few years than Baylor's been getting. But it just goes to show you got to have the right coach. Baylor's offensive line was bad for about 4 or 5 years in a row, and then finally this last year with Mateos and a couple of transfers, they were able to be good enough to go win a Big 12 title. So it can be done, but you got to have the right combination. And I don't know if their combination has just been multiple misses in recruiting and, medical retirements and whatnot, or if it's been, coaching. I'm sure it's a combination of all those things. But, yeah, that's been a problem for them. And it's their glaring weakness going into this year right now. They signed, a great recruiting class, but, okay, so did they in 2019. And 2019, they had Brew McCoy, and they had Jake Smith. I remember how hyped up he got. Jake Smith didn't do anything at Texas. I mean, you look at their 2019 class, Brew McCoy transfer, Jake Smith transfer, Tyler Johnson, who's an offensive lineman, transfer, Tyler Owens transfer, Kenyatta Watson transfer, Marcus Washington transfer, Chris Adamora transfer, Myron Warren transfer, Javon Shepard, another offensive lineman. That was a big win over A&M, transfer, Marcus Tillman transfer, Caleb Johnson, Kennedy Lewis, Marcus Caldwell, Jared Wiley, Willie Tyler, Juwan Mitchell, transfer. Then you have one starter out of 26 players that you signed. One starter, Jordan Whittington. And he's
unfortunately a tremendous talent.
Off and on. As far as health goes, you had 4 medical retirements, DeGabriel Floyd, Darian Brown, Hook Finn, and then Peter Mpagi. And then you've got 4 guys from that class that are on your 2 deep, and this is from C.J. Vogel, with Roshan Johnson, who's been very good, Tavondre Sweat, Braden Liebrock, and David Gabinda. But out of your 26-man, number 3 in the country ranked recruiting class, you've got, out of 26, 1 starter and 4 players on the 2 deep. And then they did send 1 to the NFL, I believe. But, I mean, that's horrific percentages. That is just dreadful how that class has turned out. And that's, part of why they are. And this is not bashing on Texas. It's just that's why you're not living up to what the class should have lived up to.
That's why I think they need to take away that little extra star bump from them, just to be fair to Texas.
Yeah.
It's not it is.
Dude, that Hookfin thing was wild. The way he was, that was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, just to be fair to Texas, take it away. It's not fair. They are the mountain of their own expectations combined with the mountain of the expectations of the football world who hasn't noticed what's really going on there, has created a situation that's hard for especially young athletes that come in. You've heard Texas X's say, look, they're entitled. They hadn't done anything. It's not 2005 anymore. They need
but
to. But
it's not as if they don't push back on the rankings. And but again, Coach Sarkisian, he is now in charge of trying to maybe flip that switch. Yeah, Herb Hand, a very decorated offensive line coach, is there. But, again, they struggled with that last year, and they have all the weapons. Can they protect enough to throw the ball and run the ball? We got to get to a guess. You got one more thing to close it out?
Yeah, I mean, Sarkisian said, I guess, on one of these little tour stops they've done lately, it was just interesting to hear him commenting on not doing a good enough job as far as the relationship building goes. And it just made me think of Dave Aranda. And I'm curious if Sarkisian's taken any pointers or picked up on any pointers or others out there have. We've talked about that, just Aranda's unique approach to how he turned things around in year 2. And I'm curious to see if others kind of not copy that, but take notes from that. And when I hear Sarkisian talk about relationship building, that could have come from anywhere, not necessarily Dave Aranda. But it did strike me because that's what changed for Aranda, was the relationship part of it. And if Sarkisian can get that relationship part down and get rid of all the BS hype and all of the, the logo crap that hasn't done them any favors, quite frankly, for, what year are we at? 17 years now? No, that's not fair because Colt McCoy.
12 years. 12.
Okay, it's still 12 years, That's more than a decade that we're talking about here. It's not like a couple years. If they can get rid of that and just get down to business and the real, relationships and doing all those types of things, then I think that's the right approach, and maybe they'll be on to something.
Yeah, all those kids that we talked about with Colt McCoy last week that are named after him are all 12 years old. Yeah. They're in 6th grade.
Yeah.
So
approaching high school. That's crazy.
All right, when we come back, Jed Drenning, sideline reporter for West Virginia.